Well, that happened. Buzzer beaters happen. It sucks, and this Magic team just continues to take hard lessons. I think the question everyone has is, when are they going to start learning from them? And when can we start being negative about it? I don't know. Maybe, probably not now, but we'll see. Let's get into it. It's time for Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is November 6th, 2022. My name is Philip Rossreich. I'm the expert and site editor over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, the Orlando Magic fall to the Sacramento Kings 126-123 in overtime on a buzzer-beating three from the logo. A game that featured a lot of things to get excited about, a lot of things to be frustrated about, and a lot of hard lessons learned. We're going to dive into some of those lessons and where this team is at, 10 games in now, trying to figure out how to learn these and take that all-important next step. Plus, Paolo Banchero's career night, what that means for the team moving forward and what it should mean for the team moving forward, as well as our usual box score dive that comes after games. So we'll get to all that coming up here in just a moment. But first, I do want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's a great Locked On podcast covering every single team in the NBA. Just search for Locked On and the team you're looking for. The Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. That's prizepicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. If you listen to this podcast, you probably already saw the highlights. You're probably at the game. You know what happened. There's a full recap up on OrlandoMagicDaily.com. The Orlando Magic on Saturday night against Sacramento Kings were, in one hand, extremely encouraging, showing exactly what we wanted to see coming off of Thursday's win over the Golden State Warriors, and doing all the things that are going to be important for this team to win basketball games, not just this year, but down the road. On one hand, they were everything we want them to be, even when they went down by 10 points in that fourth quarter, fighting back, getting back in the game, giving themselves a chance to win, making big plays in order to do it, making critical key shots in order to do it. Honestly, 10 games into the season, if there's one thing we should know about this Magic team, it's that you shouldn't bury them. We're going to get to the other hand here in a sec, but they'll make mistakes. They'll put themselves maybe in some bad spots, but do not bury them. They are going to fight back, and frankly, they have the talent to get back into most games in most situations. On the other hand, you have a team that is frustratingly young and making all these young team and young player mistakes, turning the ball over, not getting into the offense that got them the lead or puts them in the best position, struggling to find their way and struggling to find their center, inconsistent with their defense and their defensive rotations, all the things that can frustrate a team and all the things that often confound young teams like this one. It's a team that doesn't have great depth, to be perfectly honest right now, or great scoring depth at least. They are a team that is, let's say, streaky from beyond the arc. That seems probably generous but fair. It's a team that has a lot of flaws that it struggles to overcome, and a lot of them are self-inflicted. I know I've said this a million times on this show and a million times before, that a lot of these games rhyme. A lot of the Magic's problems are the same problems. And, I think we said it after the Oklahoma City game that it's time to kind of start, we're at a point now where we expect this Magic team to win. Let's just put it all out there on the table. This Magic team is talented enough to win basketball games. They're talented enough to win consistently. They are talented enough that we should not just be merely satisfied with a moral victory. I can point out all the positive things I'm going to point out, but that does not change the fact that the Orlando Magic lost an 18-point lead at the half. It doesn't change the fact that the Magic were up by 4 late in the game and gave that game away. It doesn't change the fact that the Magic had to scramble to get back into this game. Had to scramble in overtime, needed a crazy play, the kind of play that is usually put on the Magic to get to tie the game and put themselves in a position where the impossible or the improbable could happen, and De'Aaron Fox walking into a 3 at the logo and hitting it. Again, I don't think the scouting report's quite caught up to where De'Aaron Fox's shooting is at, but nonetheless, great shot. Tip your hat to him. I've said this a million times this year. So again, all these games rhyme. That's the unfortunate thing. All of these games rhyme. I've said it a million times. This Magic team is turning on 2 or 3 plays every game. You could point to plays in the fourth quarter. I would point to plays in the third quarter. When the Magic, were teetering, but still in control, they brought their bench in, and the Kings just decimated them. Every time Wendell Carter came out of the game, Domantas Sabonis ducked his shoulder in, went into the paint. Was unafraid. Wendell Carter scared him a little bit. Bol scared him a little bit. Once De'Aaron Fox was able to get downhill, get into the paint consistently, that was game over. Once he found his rhythm, that was game over. And now the Magic are just kind of struggling to get back into it. Are struggling to kind of find their center and find themselves. They got outscored, 36-12 in the third quarter. They had 9 of their 18 turnovers for 15 points, but 9 of their 18 turnovers in the third quarter. These are all things this team can control. And so, yes, there were good things that happened from this game. We're going to get to one of them in the next segment. But the fact of the matter is, we are at a point now, through 10 games. The Magic have been in clutch situations in 8 of them, I believe. They're 1-7 in clutch situations this year. To me, that is not a statement of the Magic's ability or inability to make plays necessarily, or certainly not a statement of their ability or inability to be in games. They can win all of these games. They have put themselves in a position to win all of these games. They should be better than a 2-8 team. That is 100% true. And so, yes, it is time perhaps to start saying, okay, you've spent this first eighth of the season, whatever it is, showing us that you can compete, showing us that you can be in these games, that you can make these things happen. Now it's time to show us that you can do more, that you can win these games. And that's going to take the kind of detail and attention to detail and composure and poise that they talked all summer about having. That's why I keep driving this point home, because they have made this what the season's about. So having multiple turnovers where your foot is out of bounds on a three-pointer. Made some threes. They made only 4 threes all game. A lot of them were taken off of the board. At least 2 were taken off the board because someone's foot was out of bounds when they shot the 3. Or late in the game, Orlando took the lead. And again, it was very, very slight, so I don't know if we can even count this, but it's little things like this. Paolo Banchero dunks the ball, touches it on its way out, gets called for a delay of game. That's a technical foul. So it's not just a delay of game from earlier in the game that's a mistake. It's now come back to roost at the end. And a game that goes to overtime, in a game where De'Aaron Fox had to hit a shot to send the game to overtime, where the Magic, had 2 really good looks to win the game in regulation and miss them. That 1 point changed everything. Didn't feel, honestly, when it happened, it didn't feel like earth-shattering, but it felt important, because that's a free point you're giving to the other team. And again, what the Magic have talked about is being more into those details. Being more into those little plays, those little things that separate winning from losing, because right now winning and losing is 2 or 3 plays a game. 2 or 3 moments per game, 2 or 3 stretches per game. The Magic have successfully graduated from we tried hard, we fought hard, to we need to win some games. And look, they may get a little bit of leeway because they're a young team. They're going to make young team mistakes. If the bench is losing them games, so be it. That's, especially with how injured this team is, maybe you can live with that. The important thing right now is to go through these games, get these learning lessons, and be better the next time. This Magic team, dating back to last year into this year, haven't played with the lead very much. So seeing them take that punch from Sacramento and struggle, that's an experience they need to remember. So now next time, Monday, if they go up by 20 on Houston, that doesn't happen again. In fact, I would sort of argue that one of the problems that happened in the OKC game is Jamal Mosley was trying to prevent that from happening, went to his starters, they did their job, they built the lead, and then they let it go again. Again, maybe there's nothing you can do about that, but again, there's a connectivity between your two playing groups thing that worked in Thursday's win over Golden State, did not work in this game. At the end of the day, this game is still about winning, and it's still about doing those little things that need to be done to win. The Magic are capable of winning these games. They've proven that time and time and time and time again, and if you lose, honestly, I don't care that Franz Wagner missed a wide open 3 to win the game. I don't care that Jalen Suggs missed his shot to win the game. In regulation, that is. You can live with makes and misses. What you can't live with is the little mistakes. The turnovers, the kind of being passive and not aggressive and not sticking with what's worked, the not attention and focus to keep the same intensity throughout the course of a game. Those are things young teams have to learn. And so, yes, we expect those growing pains. Runs are going, as it was reported on the broadcast, Jamal Mosley told his team during that run in the third quarter, they made their run, go out and make yours. It happened in the first quarter. And again, credit to this Magic team. There is plenty of reason to credit this Magic team. We're going to get to Paolo here in the second block. Credit this Magic team. They went down 10 in the fourth quarter. Last year's team would have lost this game by 15, easily. This year's team forced overtime. I do want to step back and recognize that progress, but it's still not all the way there. This was still a game the Magic should have won. The Magic put themselves in position to win, but the Magic were unable to finish. And what do I always say? What do I always say about close games? Magic play a lot of close games. What do I always say about close games? Good teams don't win close games. They avoid them. Because if you don't avoid close games, the craziness that got the Magic back into the game happens. Jalen Suggs making 2 free throws. Paolo and Jalen and Franz, I think it was Paolo and Franz doing a perfect trap in the corner on Malik Monk, leading to a turnover that Chuma Okeke grabbed and turned into a dunk to tie the game with, 6 seconds left, 2 seconds left? And that's how you end up with De'Aaron Fox hitting a half-court 3 to win the game. You don't want games to turn on a guy making a crazy shot. You can maybe live with that. You don't want that games to turn on that. And that's why you got to do your work early and be about the details and the intensity the entire 48 minutes. One guy is doing that, though, and it's becoming very, very clear that the Magic need to figure out ways to foster and develop this guy. We're going to talk about Paolo Banchero's career night coming up here in just a moment. But first, a quick word from our pals at PrizePicks. Look, I played some of those traditional daily fantasy games. I know some of you are getting ready for your Sunday football games coming up today. Basketball is obviously, we got a full slate of NBA games on Monday. Monday, the night before election night, all 30 teams in action on the election night eve on Monday. It's going to be very, very exciting around the league. I'll make that PSA again at the end of the show. But if you play those traditional daily fantasy games, you're playing against sharks. Going up against professionals, going up against people who put in multiple lineups, who know what they're doing, that win all the prizes, you're just fighting for scraps. Honestly, you play those pools, you are fighting just to get your money back. There's a better game out there. There's a better way to play daily fantasy. PrizePicks gives you the opportunity to go up against the numbers. You're not going up against anyone else. You are making the predictions. You are picking the players you want to look at, you want to play, and you are ultimately in control. Here's how PrizePicks works. You pick 2 to 5 players, and if they go on to score more or less than their PrizePicks projections, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. So if you think Luka Doncic can score more than 26.5 points, or Paolo Banchero is going to hit 22.5 points, or more than 22.5 points, you can make that projection, bundle those up, make that your entry, and have a chance to win some real money. There's no competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections. PrizePicks offers projections on any sport that you watch, including NBA, NFL, NHL, PGA, college football, men's college basketball, which is starting up on Monday, WNBA, and a whole lot more. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's really that easy. Safe and fast withdrawals, and it's currently operational in more than 30 states, including Florida and Canada. So download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports today. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match of up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. So don't forget to enter promo code LOCKEDON and sign up for an instant deposit match of up to $100. We want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. This game, what's honestly frustrating about this game is it was internationally televised. It was the Saturday NBA Saturday international game in Europe and the Middle East. So they got a good one at least. And look, you go on Twitter, you go on social media, everyone was buzzing about the Orlando Magic. So from a perception standpoint, I suppose, this was a win for the Orlando Magic, regardless of the result, regardless of how it happened. People are buzzing and talking positively about the Orlando Magic, and as has been joked before, they are the perfect league pass team. Quirky lineups, top pick in the draft, a lot of fun young players playing a fun style, can't win a game to save their life. So they are very much that league pass team. That's just very, very fun to watch and interesting, and you can see what they're trying to build, but there's still a long way to go to get there. So just bear with us and get through some of these growing pains here. But what's disappointing about this game is that it should have been a celebration. It should have been a coming out party. It should have been this big moment for one of the Magic's best players and for a player that's going to be key to their future. A player, kind of a player showing what he can do and how he can carry the team. We saw a little bit of that Thursday against Golden State in the third quarter, but Paolo Banchero, 33 points, 16 rebounds, 4 assists, 14 for 26 shooting, did everything the Magic could have hoped for and more. Outside of his three-point shot, which is definitely suspect, and I think teams are starting to hone in on that, and he's recognizing that they're starting to hone in on that, he did whatever he wanted on the floor. The Magic have a star. Let's just make that abundantly clear. The Magic have a star in Paolo Banchero. They have a player who is going to force defenses to really change how they play this team. And honestly, they have a player who can hunt out a matchup and exploit it, who can hunt out a double team and beat it. They have a player that they can get the ball to and calm themselves down with a shot. I was looking at the stat page on this, and again, the Orlando Magic got outscored in the third quarter, 36-12. They had 9 turnovers in that quarter. Paolo Banchero had 8 of those 12 points. He shot 3 of 5 in the quarter. Only 1 turnover. I believe he only had 1 of the turnovers. I'm actually going to look this up. He had no turnovers. So, 3 for 6 from the floor, 2 for 2 from the foul line, 3 rebounds, no turnovers, 8 points. in 10:06. He was minus 19 in those 10 minutes because he was the one left on the floor. But at the end of the day, what we're seeing from Paolo Banchero is someone who can stabilize this team, who can stabilize this group and give them a guy who can just get them a bucket. Now, obviously, he's a rookie. He's making some mistakes. Some of his shot selections aren't great, but it's becoming clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer that the way forward for this Orlando Magic team is to make it as easy as possible for Paolo Banchero. To make it as easy as possible for him to score, to make sure they're getting him spots in the best places for him, and allowing him to control the tempo of the game. How did the Magic build their 18-point lead in the first half? Well, in the second quarter alone, Banchero had 10 points on 5 for 7 shooting. How did he get that? How did he do that? A lot of it was getting the ball on the low block, squaring up, burying his shoulder into someone's chest, not in a foul way, but making that initial contact, blowing them off their spot, and creating space enough for him to score. He's capable of hitting those tough shots, those tough fadeaways, those tough turnarounds. Until that, once that 3-point shot comes, he's going to be a 3-level scorer. And then defenses really won't know what to do with him because he's already getting to the line at pretty crazy rates. Banchero is really special, and that much is abundantly clear, even through 10 games. I noted this, and I often reference this because I think it's interesting. But when Jalen Suggs was struggling last year, I look back because I remember John Morant struggled early in his career, and Donovan Mitchell and Trae Young struggled early in their careers. And I noticed that there was, within the first 2 or 3 weeks of their seasons, these big burst games. They did struggle early on in their careers. They weren't perfect, but you could, and they're guards, so they're not quite Paolo either. But they had a game where they put it all together, even if it was briefly. Paolo Banchero is obviously averaging more than 20 points per game. He's scoring at will. He looks comfortable out there. And this felt like the burst game. The game where he went above and beyond, where he showed what he can really do and what the team might be able to rely on him for every single night. And even if this wasn't that burst game and it was just a bigger game than normal, and his normal is 18 to 22, 23 points per game, this is a guy that gets it. And so now it's just about fostering and trying to get him to that next level. What is that next level? I don't know. Is it the command to take over games when it's needed, when his team is struggling to score, to demand the ball in a good spot, someone getting him in a good spot? Sure. Is it getting an actual point guard that can distribute the ball consistently and make that life easier for him? 100%. That's the biggest weakness on this team right now. I hate to say it, and we'll get into Jalen Suggs here in a minute, but it's bad. They're doing okay operating without a point guard, and I think Franz has started to figure things out, and Paolo's doing a really good job. They need an organizer. They need it. This season is quickly becoming, how do we make the most of Paolo Banchero? How do we get more out of this guy? And that's the real question now. Because it doesn't feel like Paolo Banchero is going to slow down. Everyone knows that Paolo Banchero is this team's top offensive option. They know he's going to get a healthy diet of shots. And really the only defense anyone is able to put up against him is to duck under screens and hope that he shoots. And he's saying in post-game press conferences, I see them ducking under screens, trying to get me to shoot my mid-range. I can't take that bait. He knows it too. And that's really scary because once he knows it, then he starts figuring out how to attack it and how to get the shots that he wants. And frankly, I don't know if there's many guys that are going to stop him from getting those kinds of shots and getting that type of shot. The reality is the Magic know what they have is really special in Paolo. They know what they have is really special in Franz. And this season was always about trying to figure out how to surround and position those two players to be the best versions of themselves and the best versions for this team. We can sit here and say in Game 10, we know that Paolo Banchero is that dude. We know he's really, really special. And frankly, if there is hand-wringing about how the Magic are playing and what they have to do, if there is that kind of hand-wringing about it, then in reality, it's an understanding that the clock is already ticking to build a winner around Paolo Banchero. That's really the task now. Because they've got a guy playing at an all-star level already. A rookie playing at an all-star level. They've got a lot of really interesting pieces that fit together in interesting ways and are doing really good things. The last piece missing is to win. And to make this individual brilliance part of winning. Every star, time in memoriam, for the most part, has had to figure this out. Yes, Michael Jordan made the playoffs every year, but he was a low seed for several years before he figured it out. You know, LeBron James missed the playoffs his rookie season. Didn't get out of the first round, I think, for two seasons. He had at least one playoff try before he could get out of the first round. Winning is hard, and it takes a lot of understanding and learning, and that's very clearly what's on display with this Magic team. But Paolo Banchero is a winning player. He is consistently making winning plays. And we just need to take a step back and appreciate and enjoy what we're watching begin to blossom here in Orlando. We're going to go through that final box score real fast, talk a little bit about where things went right, what things went wrong as the Orlando Magic fall to the Sacramento Kings, 126-123 in overtime. So let's run through the box scores. The Orlando Magic fall to the Sacramento Kings, 126-123. Again, just a lot of good things happened. Again, it's bad that they lost. And you could point to plays that the starters made for why they lost. De'Aaron Fox got loose in toward the end of the fourth quarter. Paolo had a shot where he very clearly got fouled. They didn't call it. And that enabled Sacramento to get back and score. It's like I say, it's little details. Like De'Aaron Fox's game tying shot in regulation came because the Magic deflected or forced a long pass into Domantas Sabonis. It was too long. Sabonis saved it along the baseline. Bol went for the steal as Sabonis tried to save it back out to the perimeter. That went to De'Aaron Fox, so Bol was no longer in position to guard Fox. Fox drives in, hits a little bank shot before Wendell Carter could step up and defend it. That's how the game turned. Again, Orlando did a great job on the next possession. Paolo Banchero got downhill into the paint, passed it out to Franz Wagner. Wagner missed a wide open three. Rebound was up for grabs. Jalen Suggs grabbed it with time winding down. Suggs took a decent, I wouldn't say it was a great, but a decent look at three, missed it, and we go to overtime. Again, you can live with making or missing shots. I don't mind either of those plays. I don't mind either of those shots. I don't even mind necessarily Fox making it, but it's little mistakes. So again, when you hear me say that I think the Magic are really close to winning games, it's because we're talking about Bol taking an extra step to close out on De'Aaron Fox. Or if Bol doesn't go for that steal and just says, oh, I'll let Fox catch it, but I'm going to stay in front of him, or I'm just going to contest the catch. I'm not going to go lunging out and take myself out of the play. We're probably talking about an Orlando Magic win. And so again, this is why good teams don't play close games. They avoid them because it's literally things like that decide whether you win or lose basketball games. Now, like I always say, it's never just the fourth quarter. It's the whole game. I wrote about this for Saturday, talking about the Golden State game. The Magic won that game against Golden State because Chuma Okeke had 11 points in the first quarter, because Kevon Harris had 4 offensive rebounds and changed the energy of that game, because Paolo Banchero had 12 points in the third quarter. they got to the end. They got to the heroics because of all those little moments. This game, they did a lot of little things really, really well in the first half. They were perfect in the first half, to be perfectly honest, building that 18-point lead. The third quarter, they made so many bad mistakes. If they cut those turnovers in half, they win this game. It's silly little mistakes like that cost them this game. So it's things they could control. So I'm encouraged that the Magic are making mistakes that they can control. They're still in these games, so there's a way for them to get better and to continue to grow and understand and learn. The bench stuff, again, every starter for the Magic in this game had a positive plus-minus, which is pretty scary to think about. Every player off the bench had a negative plus-minus of at least -10, except for Admiral Schofield, who played only 2:40 in this game, 2 minutes and 40 seconds in this game. The Magic got 13 total points off the bench, 5 of them from RJ Hampton, 4 from Kevon Harris, 4 from Chuma Okeke. That's a huge difference from Thursday when their bench won them the game. When Golden State's bench is just so bad, Orlando was able to outscore them. It's hard to win games when you have to lean on your starters so heavily. And yes, there's overtime, so everyone played 5 extra minutes. Paolo was playing 35 minutes in regulation. Bull is playing 32. Wendell Carter is at 33, almost 34. Franz is at 35. Jalen Suggs is at 29. Again, taking out just standard 5 minutes for overtime. So these are estimates. You're leaning on your starters for a lot of minutes, and I think part of the problem Jamal Mosley has with his rotations is he's trying to lean on his starters a little bit more than he should. He's got to give them a break at some point, and he's kind of getting stuck and caught with some bad lineups and some bad rotations because he's trying to get everyone rest and have everyone ready for those clutch moments in the fourth quarter that really, really matter. That when the pressure is ramped up a little bit, you need your best players out there because Orlando is inevitably going to be in these games. So let's start with the run through the box score. Paolo Banchero, 33 points, 16 rebounds. Talked a lot about him. He's really, really special. Just really, really special. I don't need to say much more than that. Franz Wagner, 31 points, 13 for 22 shooting, 3 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals. I'm really impressed with Franz Wagner. Again, this game, he did his little cut moves, got into the paint, did a really good job finishing around the basket. The only thing, I know I mentioned this, the only thing missing is his 3-point shooting, but he is really starting to understand how to run this team. It's not perfect because obviously the Magic struggled in the third quarter when he was in there helping trying to run this team, but he is starting to understand his reads as kind of the point guard, as the lead ball handler in this expanded role that he's playing. And that's really, really encouraging. It's going to get better. I don't think he's quite there yet, but it's going to continue to get better. And at the end of the day, as much struggle as he's gone through these first 10 games, this experience is going to be good for him in the long run because, once Markelle Fultz comes back, once the Magic have that point guard back in place, everything's going to fit together a whole lot easier and be a whole lot better for him. He's going to get the spot up 3-point shots that he's actually good at instead of some of these off the dribble shots that he's taking. But he's going to have all this in his back. And so I'm really excited for what's in store for Franz Wagner. This was an incredible game. Franz put the team on his back in overtime toward the end of the fourth quarter. Paolo and Franz were creating everything for this team. They did a really, really good job. I have very few complaints about the way Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero played in this game. The Magic did not lose this game because of them. They were in this game because of them, and they deserve a ton of credit. Bull, 23 points, 10 for 11 shooting, 7 rebounds. Just really active, especially early on. His scoring comes in bunches. I think teams just don't really know what to do with him or how to guard him or how to attack him. He's changing shots left and right. He's keeping guys out of the paint. That Magic starting lineup is just killer. That group, whenever Paolo, Bull, Wendell, and Franz are on the court together, good things are usually happening. Not all the time. I think some teams figured out or get comfortable with it, but at the beginning of games, it just bugs the heck out of teams. It just bugs everybody. They don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to attack it. And so you see teams like kind of thinking and processing, and that's to the Magic's advantage. So, I don't know if the Magic should close with Bull out there as much as they are, opening with them. is fantastic. It's great psychological warfare. It eliminates this feeling out process that a lot of teams do, because now they're not only just kind of feeling out and trying to ease their way to the game, but now they're like trying to think, and thinking's bad out there. Like I said earlier with Bol, he just takes a step too far sometimes on his rotations. His defensive rotations aren't great. He's active. He's able to recover. He's able to block those shots. He's able to kind of get there. But he will get overzealous going for steals. He'll get overzealous kind of chasing blocks. That gets him in a little bit of trouble. But again, overall good things from Bol. Wendell Carter, a solid game, 17.6 for 8 shooting, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. He did eventually foul out. He had 4 turnovers as well. Domantas Sabonis did get going eventually, 25 points, 10 for 14 shooting. I loved his defense. I loved Wendell's defense on Sabonis. I thought he did a good job really stonewalling him, making him work for his points, making him work in the post. There's a point in the first half where I don't think Sabonis wanted anything to do with Wendell Carter, and that just completely gummed up Sacramento's offense. So, Wendell's had a bit of an up and down ride, but I think generally he's been solid. Nothing spectacular, but solid overall this season. The guy that we do need to talk about, though, Jalen Suggs. 6 points, 2 for 7 shooting, 0 for 3 from deep, 7 assists, 6 turnovers. I think at this point, I mean, I don't want to completely abandon any experiments that they're doing with Jalen Suggs because he's still super young, and any time on the ball for him is good experience. But at this point, Jalen Suggs runs either super hot or super cold. He's either putting passes on a line straight into the guy's shooting pocket and shooting hand and giving them the best chance for them to succeed, or he is turning the ball over in just the dumbest, stupidest fashion. He's either stopping on a dime and hitting a shot in perfect rhythm and making you believe that he can be a 20-point scorer off, at the guard position, or he is driving headlong into the rim, right into bodies, and just taking wild shots or missing shots that he needs to be making. And unfortunately, there really feels like there's no in between. He goes through spouts where he's turning the ball over a lot, and they come in bunches for him. And the Magic had all those turnovers in the third quarter, 9 turnovers in total. Jalen Suggs had 3 of them. No one else had, only Wendell Carter had 2 in that quarter. Jalen Suggs had 3 turnovers, 3 of his 6 turnovers in that third quarter. If Jalen Suggs wants to be successful and wants to be a ball handler and all that, he's got to bring the turnovers down. It's really that simple. And it's an intangible thing. Not being able to trust your lead ball handler like that to bring the ball up, to get guys into sets, worrying about him turning the ball over, that kills the rhythm of your offense. That kills everything that you're trying to do. And so, again, all these are correctable. These are detail things. These are understanding things. Jalen does watch a lot of tape, but when he gets out there, he can get a little excited. I think he's a little excitable out on the court, and that leads to some of these mistakes, and certainly leads to some of these mistakes compounding. Again, most of us suspect that this team will be a lot better when Markelle Fultz is back. And this is exactly why, because Fultz turns the ball over a little bit, but Fultz is going to be a lot better at getting guys into spots, getting guys into their rhythm, and being able to point guys in the right direction. So again, if I'm not worried about the bigger picture things, if I'm not worried about the Magic struggling in the fourth quarter, or the Magic struggling late in games, or runs like the Kings would on the third quarter, it's because when Markelle Fultz comes back, those aren't going to be a problem. Now, if you think this team can make the play-in tournament, it's a problem now. It's a problem they have to solve now. It's not an excuse not having Markelle Fultz. They got to be better at it now. But the bigger picture, we now know that this is a need that the Magic have, and they got hit by crazy injuries at the position. Cole Anthony may or may not be able to do it effectively, but there's certainly something to it. And again, one game, I'm not going to freak out about anything. It's repeated mistakes that you have to start thinking about. And so, you have these high turnover games. Magic only had 18 turnovers in this game. So, only for them, that's low for them. And obviously they're still in a chance to win the game. So there's improvement they need to make with turning the ball over, but this was not a bad turnover game. They had a bad turnover quarter, and that's what killed them in this one. So Still a lot for this team to work on, still a lot for this team to do. Jalen Suggs is just, you don't know what you're going to get from him. And I think, again, this is a young team. They're going to be inconsistent. They're going to have their struggles. But you got to know what you can count on from each player, and you got to have a baseline. And I think that's where Jalen's kind of at right now. Orlando shoots 54.3% from the floor, just 4 for 23 from beyond the arc. So again, kudos to Orlando for staying in the game. Sacramento hit 15 threes. It's a big reason why they were able to come back in this game. Trey Lyles had 4 3-pointers off the bench. Malik Monk had 3 3-pointers off the bench. So those two combined shot 7 for 14 on threes. Orlando was 4 for 23. You want to know why Sacramento did get over the hump and come back in this game? They hit 3-pointers toward the end of that third quarter, beginning of the fourth. That got them back into the lead. That got them back. That put them ahead by 10, and Orlando was clawing uphill to try and get back into this thing. They shoot 15 for 40 from beyond the arc in total, 17 for 26 from the foul line. So Orlando lost. Forget that the Magic had a 20-point lead at one point early in the third quarter. Orlando lost a game shooting better than 50% from the floor, not hitting any threes, getting out free throwed. Sacramento got to the line 26 times. Orlando just 20. They made 19 of them, so good free throw shooting, which is big. And a game where they turn the ball over, they only lose by 3, and they lose on a buzzer beater in overtime. Taking out how this game flowed, if you just looked at the box score, you'd be like, man, like the Magic really fought to stay in this game and gave themselves a chance. That's great. And look, I'm not here to say that that's completely wrong, but obviously the way this game flowed, the Magic's defense was not great. They gave up 50.5% shooting, 15 for 40 from deep, 17 for 26 from the foul line, 37 points to De'Aaron Fox. I think he had 26 of those in the 26 or 27 of those in the second half and overtime. 25 to Domantas Sabonis. Sacramento didn't have great balanced scoring, 15 each from Lyles and Monk. But again, it all added up. The Magic weren't able to stop the bleeding. They weren't able to find their center. They weren't able to get that extra, that one guy. Again, Chuma Okeke has the first quarter that he had, against Golden State in the third quarter of this game. Magic win the game easily. They needed one more guy to step up at a key moment, and it just never came. And so that's why the Magic are sitting at 2-8 now instead of a tidy 3-7. The Orlando Magic can fall to the Sacramento Kings 126-123. They're back in action Monday against the Houston Rockets. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the fun places on the podcast to your podcast-enabled listening device. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can follow us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. Now that you're done listening to us, be sure to make Locked On Sports Today your next listen. The biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day every Monday through Friday, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get podcasts. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Do not forget, I know in Orange County at least, Sunday is the last day of early voting. Many other counties here in Central Florida, early voting is closed. So if you have not voted, or if you're not planning to early vote here in Orange County on Sunday and have not voted yet, please make a plan to vote on Tuesday. The midterm elections are here. All those fun political ads that have been flooding your TVs and your YouTubes and your Instagrams and all your social media, they're almost all gone. We're going to make it, I promise. Hopefully, maybe, who knows. But Election Day is here on Tuesday, November 8th. If you have not voted yet, please go make a plan to vote. You can find great voter guides from the Orlando Sentinel. The TV station that I work for, Spectrum News 13, has a great voter guide as well on My News 13. They can walk you through your ballot. Check out your Supervisor of Elections office for sample ballots and more information on where and how to vote. You do have to vote at your specific precinct if you are voting on Election Day. I know Orange County Supervisor Elections Office does a great job providing a ton of information and a ton of voter information and voting guides to help out voters prepare for Election Day. So again, Election Day is Tuesday. If you have not voted yet, please do make a plan to vote. This is not a plea to vote for a particular party or a particular candidate. This is just a plea to go out and vote, because We live in a democracy. Our voices get heard on these days, and we have the power. We have the power to shape our future, not just on national elections, but on important local issues and local elections as well. So definitely take the time to do some research, do some studying, and make your plan to go vote on Tuesday if you have not done so already. That's going to do it for me, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. For Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.